Yep, they give it to me for free. There it is. Gotta love free. So the customer goes, he pulls up here. If he got a chainsaw, wants repaired, he goes, I got a mower I'm going to take to the junkyard or the scrap yard unless you want it. You can have it for free if you want it. I'll bring it to you. Sure, okay, I like free. And this doggone thing even runs. Yep, it's got some issues. It runs though. Let me fire it up for you right quick. That's not on right. Y'all are going to want to stick around. There's a lot of good info coming in this video. Come around on this side. I got something to show you down here. And this thing is covered in oil. I noticed there's oil coming. That's oil, not gas, coming out of the fuel pump. This other side, same thing. There's oil everywhere. You guessed it. I know how to fix it. I know what's wrong with it. Do you know? If you do, leave it down in the comments. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. Don't skip ahead yet. So welcome back to Raley's Small Engines. I'm T-Bone. So did you figure it out? Do you know what's wrong with it? I do. It's got a bad head gasket. And it's going to be blown between the piston and the rocker valley, or push rod valley right there. You'll see. I guarantee it's going to be on that side. It's where they always blow. The thing we got to do is get this engine cover off. Like NASCAR. Air filter doesn't look too bad. Pre-filter either. Lots more to come. So don't be intimidated just because it's a head gasket. Oh no. This is so simple, folks. Very, very easy to do. So far, all I've done, just loosen 2 bolts in the front, 2 bolts in the back, and pop that cover off. This plate that y'all saw earlier, that should have been up under there and snaps into that black plastic cover. Now, all we've got to do is remove 2 bolts on the exhaust over here and 2 bolts on the intake. You don't have to take your whole carburetor off. Just that bolt and that bolt. 2 reasons I raised it up. One, it's easier for me to get to sitting here on the bench. The other is it kind of keeps all the oil back and not running out here dripping while I try to get this dry and cleaned up when I put it back together. If you don't have a winch in the ceiling, you can use car ramps, some concrete blocks, some wood. Be sure to chalk your tires in the back so it can't roll. Set your parking brake. Just be safe. Wiggle jiggle. Comes right out. Don't forget your gasket. And all you do is just slide this back out of the way. It'll be fine sitting right there. Click subscribe. It's free. All right, so let's get this spark plug out. And we're going to talk about this leak down tester. Boy, that thing is rusty. Wasn't very tight either. Look at that, folks. That is what is called a bad head gasket. Or it could be bad rings. So now, you remember the fuel pump I showed you, all the oil coming out. The pulse line for the fuel pump on this particular engine, there's a bunch of different ways they hook them up. That pulse line goes around to this dipstick tube. Now the reason you saw that oil coming out of there is because compression and is leaking back through where I told you, between the piston and the push rod valley. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that loose. Now we're going to talk about this compression tester. You want to make sure it is backed off. So that's putting pressure on. You want to back it off counterclockwise until there's nothing there. And we'll hook that up. You can go ahead and hook it right up to your air hose. Now we have pressure, okay? Now, all we've got to do now is let's screw our other end in. Well, I tell you what, sorry, I missed a step. See, I don't think of everything, y'all. I use a screwdriver, and let's find top dead center. I'm just going to turn the flywheel. Now, this could be the intake stroke, the exhaust stroke. I don't know. We're going right there, it's top dead center. And you're going to look for, when we do this, you're going to be listening for air coming out of the muffler real hard or air coming out of the carburetor real hard. If it is, that means you're on the intake or the exhaust stroke. So let's hook this up like that, and we're going to start putting some air pressure to it. Y'all watch these gauges, and we're going to listen at the muffler and the intake. I hear air coming out. Look, can y'all see that? Look right here. I don't know if y'all can hear the gurgling, but look at it jumping up and down. Can you see that, guys? Let's put some more air to it. Look at there. It's just gurgling air. That's a bad head gasket, folks. Okay, I kind of missed telling you something I didn't tell you very good. If you hook this up and you hear air coming out of this intake or out of the muffler real strong, you know that you're on the exhaust stroke or intake stroke. All you have to do is use a screwdriver. Rotate this around again, and you'll feel the piston and see it's way down. And when we come back up, you'll be on a different stroke. So do that until you don't hear the full-blown air coming out of the muffler or the intake, and you'll end up, the next time you'll end up on the compression stroke. Oh, that was tight. Listen, these are different on different machines, so just do what you gotta do. Stick your bolts back in the hole, screw them back in here, just whatever works for you. Let's get our coil wire out of the way. There is another video, I'm gonna put a link right up here of me doing a head gasket on another Briggs. I'll also put a link in the description. Now let's get these head bolts out. Now I like to leave the head bolts in different engines. Sometimes they are different lengths depending on the engine. So what I'll do is I'll leave these bolts in here and take it out, and then I'll look at the lengths. This one in particular, I believe they are all the same length. Y'all ready to see the reveal? I think it's blown in more than one place. Did I get all the bolts out? I guess I did. Now you notice I didn't loosen rocker arms or anything. That's okay, because we're going to set the valves in a minute. You're going to want to stick around and not miss us setting these valves. There's our push rods. You're going to see a bright one and a dark one. That's steel, that is your exhaust. The aluminum is your intake. Now you can order another exhaust one. They are the exact same length, and you can put two steel ones in here. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. Y'all wanna see this head gasket? All right, so let's take a look in here. Now I did look, you can see all those bolts are basically the same length. This thing is leaking. all the way around. All that oil you can see around here. Let me set this head down, folks. I'm just going to set it on the floor. But we have definitely got some leaks in here. Let's see if we can pull this back. Just in case you don't have a leak down tester, this may help you with what you're looking for. I'm just trying to get this off as gently as possible so that you can see this gasket is definitely bad. Look right there. Can you guys see that? Right there for sure. That's where our gasket is leaking back into this valley where I was talking about earlier. Mrs. T has just brought us another light over here to hopefully help out. But you can definitely see these gaps in here. Say hey to everybody, Mrs. T.
Hey, y'all.
All right, guys. Now, you know the fun part? This stuff goes so fast and so easy. But now, guess what? We got to clean it up. That's right. Let's get this thing cleaned up. Okay, so we're going to use, this is an old inspection sticker scraper. I bought when I worked with my Uncle Johnny back in the late 70s. Still got it. He owned a tire store, by the way. And we're going to scrape and clean all this mess up. That wire brush on a drill. And the other thing I'm going to have to do, we're going to have to get all of this goop out of here and get this cleaned up. This is an air-cooled engine. It needs to breathe. So I'm going to step back and get this cleaned up, and in your time, it's going to go in about a second. When you pull this head off, be careful. Don't lose these little guys. That goes on top of your valves right there. Make sure you don't lose them. There's one on each valve. Goodness, what a mess. Well, that's better. This is still pretty nasty. I think I might take this over for a dip in the sonic cleaner and see if that'll help any. I gotta work on the head some more. The main thing, folks, is these fins. We want to get as much out of there as possible. Said that wrong. I said the main thing. Look at the scores on that piston. Now, I didn't do that cleaning it up, but your mating surfaces where your head gasket goes, that is the most important. The fins are second most important, I guess, because if they're clogged up, it's going to run hot. Somebody's going to ask, what do I use? Well, number one, I clean this thing out every time I use it. I'm not sponsored by them. Simple Green is what I mix with the water. Hope I got that on camera. And I reuse it over and over. Now we're going to let this bad boy cook for probably an hour. Ooh, I might have overfilled it. No, almost. Y'all stick around. Now we need to find our correct head gasket. So, right here, 31Q777 0305E1. I know it's hard to read right there, but that's what you're looking for on the valve cover. Now we'll go in up to Park's tree and I'll show you. Hold on. When you go into Park's tree, this is the first thing you're going to see. Go right there, search for models, and 31Q. And since I've already typed it in, it's already up there. So we'll click there, and boom, right there on top. We'll go into our diagrams, and we're going to look down and look for cylinder head. There's cylinder head right there. Now let's take it and move this screen up. And you'll look, right there's the head gasket. Just click on the circle. And there's the correct part number. Alright, let's see. I believe I got one of those. I think that's it right there, matter of fact. 796-584. I do not recommend going and getting one of those aftermarket ones off of the Jungle website. Get you an OEM gasket. And yes, I just pulled that gasket off the shelf. I do carry rotary gaskets, and I'll carry some Stens gaskets, but I prefer the Briggs. But Stens and rotary makes good quality parts. A lot of scraping and wire brushing went into getting that darn thing that clean. The main thing is these inside parts. Yes, that stuff is just like baked on in here. The inside is spotless like new. Where your gaskets go, I've got those clean and all this. And I don't know what got in that cylinder, but you can, you know, the marks I showed you on the piston, you can see something happened in here at some point. I don't know. So the next step, let's slide this gasket on, get the head in. First thing we need to do is get these little guys here back on our valves. Little tips that go over the valves. And I just use a little tiny bit of grease on my finger. That holds them in place because we surely don't want to lose that. Now, there's a steel and there's an aluminum push rod. For you guys in the UK, Canada, wherever y'all got aluminium, that goes on your intake, which is the bottom. And I want to feel around down in there till you find the right spot. Let's go ahead and loosen our lock nut or screw, whatever you want to call it. Let's back these rockers way off. Just like that. Now I'm going to hold my thumb on this tip right here, and I'm going to turn the engine and make sure, see it going up and down? I know I'm on a lifter right there. Or tap it. You call it what you want to. I don't care. Alright, I'm just going to run this back up just so it don't fall out. Now y'all going to want to stick around because I'm going to show you how to adjust the valves. And then I'm going to show you what I promised in the beginning of the video. I think I mentioned it, how to check and make sure that your camshaft is good. Now, without going up through all this, because all you'll have to do to find out if your camshaft compression release is good, all you'll have to do, and I didn't put grease on that other one, did I? I meant to put grease on the push rod. It's going to be fine. We'll find out if your compression release is good or not, and all you have to do is remove the valve cover to find out. Now I got my other push rod in here. Am I in the right spot? Yep, there she is, and stay in there. I just put a little pressure on it toward the engine, that's all. So there it's opening up this other valve. Let's pull this up here, and we're just going to run this back down. Don't care where it's at, you'll be fine. That has hit the lock nut, got a little bit of play. That's good right there. Now let's see about adjusting these valves. Spec, I think, calls for 4 thousandths and 8 thousandths on the exhaust and 4 thousandths on the intake. Sometimes, I don't know, just depends on my mood that day. Most of the time I'll adjust it 4 thousandths on both of them. Today I'm going to use 6 thousandths. on the exhaust, which is your top one. We're going to make sure we got, and all I'm going to do this, you see this intake valve, see it's all the way open right there? That means this one is closed. This is simple stuff, folks. Put it up there and use your hand. You get it till you got a little bit of drag on your feeler gauge, and then you'll want to tighten up your lock nut. That's it. Got a little bit of drag there. It's perfect. Now I'm just going to spin the engine over again. And see, my exhaust valve is open all the way. Let's adjust our intake valve. We definitely want always 4 thousandths. And I like a tight 4 thousandths on my intake. Just how I do it. You do how you want to. We got me a nice drag right there. Beautiful drag right there. Now, you want to know how do I know my compression release is good or not? Very simple. All we're going to do is watch these, and I'll show you what you're looking for. There'll be a little bump. There'll be one open, one closed, and then, see it right there? It's hard to see. Let's see if I can zoom you in a little closer here and get you where you can see that. That's back to intake opening. Now you're a little closer, so let's see. Watch. Bump. It's a little tiny bump in there. Exhaust coming open. Now we're coming back around. There's your intake opening. And then there it closes. Watch this. See that little just boop boop? Just barely bumps. That's all you're looking for. That's what tells you your compression release on your camshaft is good. Now that we've got the valves adjusted, all I've got to do is mount my intake, my exhaust, pop my valve cover on, and engine cover. We still got to go out there and get this thing cleaned up so y'all don't go nowhere. Little side note too, some of these have gaskets. Some you can do with sealer. Doesn't much matter. If it leaks with a gasket, use some black RTV. One more side note. Change your engine oil and your oil filter while you're doing this. Go ahead and put some grease. You know, do all the stuff. All right, I've got the doors shut because it's a little cool outside yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to push this thing outside. We're going to see if she'll fire up and run. If that goes good, I'm going to take some duct tape and tape the air cleaner hole shut. and then we're gonna get a little pressure washing to see if we can clean this booger up. All right, I just set the parking brake. Y'all cross your fingers. Alrighty then. This thing looks brand and new. Well, except for that seat. Well, y'all can tell I'm outside by all the racket out here. Got this engine. Looks a lot better around here now. Lots better. I know it ain't perfect. Well, that looks a lot better. Sure cleaned up pretty good. I noticed somebody, that fuel filter is on backwards. We're gonna put a new fuel filter on there though. I think my butt's getting wet with this old seat. Thank y'all for tuning in to Raley's Small Engines. I'm T-Bone. We really appreciate you guys. If y'all don't mind, click that subscribe button. Give us one of those thumbs up. We'll see you next time.